Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to continue our lecture series on the causes of World War One. We are going to conclude the causes of World War One in this lecture. So, in the previous lectures, we talked about the kind of philosophical reasons for the cause of the wars. So, we talked about nationalism, imperialism, militarism, and alliances. So, the main causes uh, of World War One. Today, we're going to talk about the actual spark that started the fire, and that's going to be the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. It's going to happen in June of 1914, and Franz Ferdinand is this guy right here. He's the heir to the Austrian throne, and so his is actually his dad has just decided that he doesn't want to be the ruler of the Austrian Empire. So Franz Ferdinand's going to be the guy that takes over eventually. Now, Franz Ferdinand isn't really liked. He's not very popular in Austria-Hungary. His grandfather doesn't really like his Franz Ferdinand's choice of wife. He's very, conservative and kind of old school. He really hates the Slavic people. He buys into, the social Darwinism of the day, the idea that we should group each other by race, and which inevitably leads to racial hierarchies. And so he really has a disdain for the Slavic people. He will get shot in Sarajevo, so he's going to go down. Austria-Hungary, right? Remember, we've talked about this. Does annex Bosnia. So when they annex Bosnia, Franz Ferdinand is sent down to Bosnia to kind of, uh, inspect the troops, kind of look at the area and give an assessment about the condition of Bosnia. He will be assassinated while he's in Sarajevo, and that's going to be the spark that sets off the war. He's assassinated by a guy by the name of Gavrilo Princip, and this will touch off the events that essentially lead to World War One. So this is Franz Ferdinand with his wife, and he on his trip down to Bosnia. Now he knows when he goes down to Bosnia to inspect the troops that there is an actual risk to him being killed. The military has intelligence that there's going to be an attack on his life, but Franz Ferdinand, decides that he wants to project strength because he's not really well liked. It's kind of like a PR campaign. So he kind of ignores it. I mean, he's going to have security, but he's not going to do pretty simple things, right? He's riding around in a convertible. So he can be seen. He has a schedule that he keeps to. So if there's a chance that you might get assassinated, you probably don't want to be in a convertible or keep to a schedule because that just makes it easier for the assassins. But he's going to do it anyway. And because of that, he's going to essentially make it a little bit easier to be assassinated. This is Gavrilo Princip. He is a member of a Serbian nationalist group called the Black Hand, and so it's a pro-Slavic group. Serbia is not happy about Austria-Hungary invading Slavic territory, and so some Serbian nationalists create this what is essentially like a terrorist organization called the Black Hand. It's not officially run by the Serbian government, but there are some very high up Serbian generals that are supporting the Black Hand. The Black Hand is going to come up with the plan and equip five different assassins to go to Bosnia and attack Franz Ferdinand while he's in Bosnia. One of the people that they recruit is Gavrilo Princip. Princip is kind of this like aimless guy. This is a problem with a lot of it happens a lot to young men in particular, that if they don't have a lot of success early in life, if they don't have an aim or a goal, they tend to become very frustrated. And so Gavrilo Princip feels this way. He's also been diagnosed with TB or tuberculosis, which is essentially a death sentence in the early 1900s. And so all five members of the Black Hand that are going to be sent to Bosnia have a deadly disease like tuberculosis, and so because this is essentially a suicide mission, and if you're frustrated and you're going to die a pretty terrible death in the next few years anyway, you're a perfect recruit for for a terrorist attack, and that's essentially what happens. Now they don't view themselves as terrorists; they view themselves as freedom fighters, and there's a good argument to make there because the Slavic people have been invaded, and they're just trying to chase off the invaders, and so terrorist, freedom fighter, kind of a matter of perspective there. But anyway, so essentially what happens is these guys are each given a gun, a grenade, and a cyanide pill. So if they get caught, they don't want to be traced back to Serbia, because if it's traced back to Serbia, then Austria-Hungary is going to take revenge on Serbia, and Serbia can't defend itself from Austria-Hungary, and so the all of these guys are given cyanide pills, and they're expected to take it because they're probably going to die shortly anyway. So they come up with a plan, and the plan is to essentially intercept the heir to the Austrian Empire, Franz Ferdinand, on his way across his tour of Bosnia. And so they know from where he's staying that there's several bridges. There's these 5 major bridges in Sarajevo, and there's 5 assassins. And so each assassin is essentially going to camp out at one of these bridges. And when they see the motorcade that has Franz Ferdinand in it, they're going to attack that motorcade as it crosses the bridge, and so essentially throw a grenade into the convertible. And the first attempt will be a failure. What'll happen is they'll throw the grenade, it'll hit like the hood of the car, bounce over, and land in the car behind it. So Franz Ferdinand will essentially be able to escape. He's going to be able to drive off and continue his essential survey of Sarajevo. But then, and so it looks like it's over, and the other assassins are kind of demoralized. They feel like they failed, and they're just going to kind of head back to Serbia. Gavrilo Princip goes to a cafe to kind of presumably get something to eat or drink, and then get his thoughts together about what he's going to do next. Well, then that's when kind of fate steps in. It almost seems like just fate insisted that World War I happened, because it looks like Franz Ferdinand has escaped with his life. But then the motorcade essentially gets lost and does a turnabout, and they do this turnabout right in front of the cafe where Gavrilo Princip happens to be, and so he's able to essentially run up, jump into the motorcade, unload his gun into the car, and kill Franz Ferdinand. He's going to attempt to take the cyanide pill, but the cyanide pill is not going to work, so he's going to be captured, which is going to essentially allow Austria-Hungary to figure out that Serbia is involved and that they're connected to the Black Hand. Just to recap, the Black Hand wanted union between Bosnia and Serbia to unite the Slavic people under one government. Again, social Darwinism, grouping people by race and ethnicity. He will get captured after the assassination attempt, and is, remarkably enough, they're not going to, for the guy that's going to start World War I which will result in millions of deaths and a complete remaking of the map of Europe. They're not going to put him to death. The Austrian-Hungarian Empire has they do have the death penalty, but only for people that are over 20 years of age, and they can't prove how old Gavrilo Princip is, and so he won't get the death sentence. But he will die in jail because he has tuberculosis, so he will die in jail from TB. But the government won't be killing him because they can't prove he's old enough. So now all of a sudden, we're going to see the alliance system come into play. Austria-Hungary is upset at Serbia. They've connected this to Serbia. And they know that attacking Serbia is going to bring in Russia. And so they can't do that without backing. So they essentially go to Germany and they say, look, Serbia did this and we want to invade Serbia, but Russia will get involved. Are you going to have our back? Well, Germany wants to go to war. They want to go to war because they want to snatch up more colonies for resources. And so Germany, essentially knowing that it's going to cause war, says, yes, we'll back you, but don't make it look like we're the aggressors. And so Austria-Hungary makes completely ridiculous demands of Serbia. And they essentially say, look, we want to investigate who did this. We want you to suspend all your laws. We want to come in with our military to try and find out, how far this conspiracy reaches into the Serbian government. We want to have the ability to arrest who we want to arrest, and we don't want you to have any say in it. Well, Serbia can't agree to that because imagine if somebody did that to, if Canada made those demands of America. It's like, no, we're our own sovereign nation. And Serbia's like, they don't want war. They're like, we're going to look into this. And by all indications, they really do want to look into this because they don't want to go to war with Austria-Hungary. And so they're like, we're going to catch these guys. We're going to put them on trial. We're going to try and make this thing right. We didn't have anything to do with it officially, even though members of the government did. They were acting outside of the purview of the government. And so, they're trying to capitulate here, but they can't give up their sovereignty. And so when Austria makes their demands, Serbia essentially says no. And when that happens, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Well, we know what happens next. The dominoes start to fall, right? We know what Russia's going to do. Right? Russia will then declare war on Austria-Hungary. Well, when Russia declares war on Austria-Hungary, right, Austria-Hungary would get crushed by Russia. So what's going to happen next? Well, if you said Germany is going to declare war on Russia, you would be almost completely right because they will. But Germany also knows that they declare war on Russia, they know what France is going to do. So they're just going to get ahead of it. And so Germany, because if Germany's going to fight a two-front war, they have to be quick because they need to knock out one opponent before they face the other. They can't give Russia and France time to react because then the Russia and France will attack at the same time, crushing Germany in the middle. So Germany says, look, if we declare war on Russia, we know France is going to declare war on us. So let's just declare war on both of them, and then we can attack first. And hopefully the Germans are thinking they can take out one of the two. We'll talk about which one. They're going to attack France first for logistic reasons. And so they're thinking they can take out France before Russia can mobilize and attack Russia. So they jump ahead and attack. Eventually, England will declare war on Germany and Austria-Hungary. It has to do with the way that Germany invades France. It violates old treaties that England has with Belgium and Belgium neutrality. So mobilization starts. The war is going to be on the German end is going to be essentially run by timetable. It is their plan is essentially going to be a calculation of how fast their enemies can mobilize. They recognize really quickly that France has the more modern army. They're industrialized. They have railroads. They're going to be able to get troops ready faster. Russia, who doesn't have very many railroads at all, that doesn't even have very many paved roads at all, they're going to have to be transporting their troops by horse on muddy roads, and that it's going to be super slow going. So Russia's going to be slow. So they realize, well, if that's the case, we should attack France first and hopefully end that fighting before Russia can get any troops ready. Then once France is done, we can turn our attention onto Russia. And so Germany does all this math on how quick people can move, and that's going to determine who gets attacked first. So Russia's going to mobilize slowly because they have poor planning. They don't have great generals and they have terrible infrastructure. I mean, it's like rainy season in Russia, and they've got, dirt roads that turn into mud roads, and like most of their troops are going to have to either walk or be on horse. It's going to just take forever. And plus they're going to have to pull troops from all over Russia, and Russia's, just gigantic. And so it's going to take lots of time to do that. Germany, they knew they could mobilize the quickest. They have the most amount of resources. They have the most amount of paved roads. And so they're going to be able, and all of their soldiers, because of conscription, know exactly where to report and who to report to. So that's huge. Germany can just essentially ring a bell and say the war has started, and everybody in Germany knows exactly where to go, and so they can get there super fast. That's what conscription does, and so they know that they're going to be able to get their 3.5 million troops exactly where they need to be quicker than everybody else. Right. Now, France, on the other hand, they are less well organized than Germany, but much more organized than Russia. And so they're going to be able to, they do have railroads, they do have paved roads, they're going to have cars, but they're still going to be pretty slow. As a matter of fact, the Germans are going to steamroll into France, and France is really going to stop them by the skin of their teeth by getting soldiers out to the Battle of the Marne, which is where the stalemate's going to occur, and trench warfare is going to really start through taxis and bikes. I mean, literally, soldiers are going to be like, right. Just imagine a soldier with like a gun over his shoulder on a little bike with a basket on it and a bell. Not that that's what it's like. That's just what's going on up here. But sometimes this is a little bit crazy. So, they're not going to be able to mobilize very quickly, which is going to allow initial German success, but they are going to be able to mobilize quick enough that they're going to be able to stop the German advance before they get to the capital of Paris. They will have heavy civilian population. The French population, again, social Darwinism and this idea that we should group each other by race and ethnicity is going to cause severe hatred of the German people by the French. And so you're going to get a lot of civilian participation, people volunteering to help rush soldiers out to the front. To be able to stop the German advance, they'll get ultimately about 3 million people out into the England. On the other hand, they don't have any conscription. They have the largest, most powerful navy on the planet, so that's going to be very important. But they only have about 150,000 men ready for battle, and so they're just going to be woefully undermanned. They do have some of the best trained soldiers. I think Germany's probably a little bit better trained because they're more modern techniques. England has well trained soldiers, but their strategy is not nearly as advanced. So England's going to have some catching up to do. So that leads us into the actual battles, and that's where we'll pick up with our next lecture. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.